Time to hang out with my sister girl. Hey, sister girl on films. Hey, sister girl on films. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Sister Girl on Films. And y'all, we are back with Love is Blind, Season 4, Part 2, or Episodes 6, 7, and 8. These last 3 episodes, honey, it picked up, but in such a great way. I was like, okay, I see you, Netflix. So let's go ahead and get into episode 6, okay? So Brett and Tiffany just did not have anything happening in this episode. And that's not a bad thing. You know, I don't think there needs to be drama. You know, they're just kind of figuring each other out. They still have that spark. You know, it seems to be growing more and more every day. Brett met Tiffany's friends this episode and they really loved him. Like, he was giving like perfect guy type of vibes, which for me, I was like side-eyeing it because I'm like, all these things always just blow up in our face as an audience. So maybe he's not as wonderful as he's portraying himself to be, but I don't want to think that about him. Like, I want to truly believe that Brett and Tiffany genuinely went on the show to find love. They have found it and they are happy. That's all I want it to be. But because it's reality TV, I'm always looking for the other shoe to drop. It is a toxic relationship with these dating shows, okay? There's nothing to talk about with them. They're a safe couple right now, and we're gonna move on. So next, Jackie and Marshall. At least for episode 6, they were pretty okay. Like, Jackie is still a little bit nervous because she hasn't really told her parents. Well, she has told her family about the experiment, but her mom in particular is like not here for it. So she's still a little nervous because she really is close to her family. And she just is like, you know, if they don't support this, I don't know how I'm going to feel about everything. But for right now, I just want to focus on me and Marshall's connection. Marshall was super sweet, got up in the morning, cooked her breakfast, just really like tending to her needs at this point. Jackie said that she has never experienced love in her life, which is kind of sad. I think for right now, Marshall seems like a safe space for her to be vulnerable because he seems so sweet and caring, that hopefully she can let her guard down and open up and be more, you know, understanding and feel more secure in a relationship so she doesn't get so anxious and shit when things happen. But for right now, in this particular episode, there was not a whole lot happening with Jackie and Marshall either. Y'all know that's gonna change in 7 and 8. But at least for episode 6, Marshall and Jackie, you know, they were good. And let me also just say, let me make a correction, because in my part 1 recap or review, I made the statement that Jackie and Marshall had not had sex. And someone in the comments corrected me and was like, no, they definitely had sex in the honeymoon. And I'm like, and I tried to argue her down. No, they didn't. And in the coming up episode, she talked about they not having sex. And then she was like, no, in episode 5, she said blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, did she? So I had to go back and watch. Because like I said, I start doing other stuff, okay? My ADHD kicks in and it just goes left. So I literally went back, watched the scene. I had missed all of that, child. So shout out to you, person. I don't know if you're subscribed to my channel. You should subscribe. But shout out to you for pointing that out. Thank you for that correction, because Marshall and Jackie did have sex, but they ain't having it now, all right? Next up, let's talk about Zack and Bliss. Yes, y'all. Bliss is back, honey. So once they came back from the honeymoon, Zack and Irina called the things off. Bliss got a phone call from Zack to meet him for lunch. Bliss comes in looking amazingly beautiful. As I watched this, I forgot that they had not seen each other. Like, once he picked Irina, that was it. So she had no idea what he looked like. He had no idea what she looked like. And obviously he saw her and was taken aback because she's gorgeous, honey. And so she's just sitting there and she's just looking like, why the fuck am I here? And what do you want? And so Zack is just like, I know I made a mistake in proposing to Irina. I should have chose you. I know you know I made a mistake too. And I'm sorry. I don't want to try to rush anything, but I would like for us to at least, you know, try to spend a little time together, talk to each other if you're open to that. And Bliss was just kind of like, you know, I'm cautious about it. You know, I really did fall for him in the pods. You know, he broke my heart. He proposed to somebody else. I really don't know how I feel about this, but I'm going to at least hear him out. And so Zack with Bliss, Zack seemed like a totally different guy. And that just goes to show, like, it just takes like the right person to bring out the best in you, because he seemed so comfortable. Well, at first he seemed really nervous, which he should be, because he did break this girl's heart. But she was laughing at his jokes. You know, she was being understanding to him. He asked her if his intense eye contact was too much, and she was just like, no, it's not. And I'm like, no, you're never too much for the right person. For the person that ain't right for you, yeah, everything you do is just too much, because they don't really like you like that. But the person who likes you likes almost everything about you. So she was like, no, I'm okay with it. And he told her how Irina said his eye contact was just too much and he needs to blink, and she thought that was hilarious. And she was like, no, I'm okay with it. And I feel like that by itself, you could see Zack start to relax. So as Zack and Bliss are talking about, you know, how things went down in the pods, you know, Bliss is bringing up, you know, how it hurt her that he proposed to Irina. You know, she's kind of just, you know, still harping on that. Fair enough, because she was upset about it, so she has the right to. And then Zack says, you know, well, there's more than one person for everyone. And I'm like, sir. So I get what he's saying, that yes, you're going to date other people, but to say there's multiple people for everybody, sir, not at the same damn time. Not at the same time, but to each his own, honey. So I'm happy to see Bliss is back. Hopefully that means less of Irina. And I'm happy to see a different side to Zack, because I wasn't understanding what they were seeing in him. It's a little awkward, but it works for Bliss because she identifies as awkward too. So we'll see what happens with them in the upcoming episodes. All right, so let's talk about Kwame. I've been saying his name wrong. Kwame and Chelsea. So I'm still standing on the fact that I feel like Kwame is not into Chelsea as much as she is into him. I'm just not seeing it. So when he went to her apartment, first of all, her dog is so freaking adorable. I think her dog's name is Rocky. So stinking cute. Anyway, but when he went to her apartment, every time Chelsea would say either like she loved him or would speak about her feelings, he just seemed to like recoil from it. And even at one point, she said something to him about loving him, and he was just like, man, your man is over there sleeping, talking about the dog. He didn't say I love you back or nothing. And then she was like, yeah, I just love him. She said, you're gonna learn to love him just as much as I love you, right? And he was just like, like that whole scene in her apartment was just like, ooh, Kwame is not into this like he is saying that he is. So on one hand, he's talking about how great she is and how she's like the one for him. But then when she's being affectionate and talking about how much she loves him, he's not into it. I think my personal opinion is that I think this process is too much too soon for Kwame. I think when he signed up for the show, because we're gonna get to all the other stuff a little bit later, but when he signed up for the show, I don't think he expected to find somebody. When we look at all the pieces put together, I don't think he was thinking that he would find somebody. And so now that he's found somebody, and in the moment and all the excitement of it, he proposed to Chelsea, I feel like he's regretting it. I feel like he does not really want to be in this process, because this is a lot of change for him, and he does not seem to be okay with change. So in this episode, Kwame and Chelsea are preparing for Kwame to meet her dad. And so she's just like talking about how her dad doesn't really like anybody for her. And so Kwame is like starting to get irritated. He's starting to shut down. I think he's getting nervous because you remember in the past, he talked about how he couldn't pick up his one prom date because he was black. So I don't know if this is something that's playing in his mind, that he's gonna be rejected by her dad. And so, you know, sometimes when you get anxious and nervous about stuff, you start to get irritable, you start to get moody. And I feel like that's what was happening with him, because at one point he was like, I feel like your energy is starting to become my energy. Kwame was just like, you know, well, this is your decision. This is our relationship. So if your dad is not okay with that, You know, you just need to explain to him that this is what's for you and this is what's gonna make you happy, and are you okay with that? And it kind of ends, you know, on the cliffhanger of, you know, her not really saying anything as the doorbell rings and her dad is at the door. So we'll see in episode 7, you know, what happens with dad. But I feel like Chelsea, if she has a parent, you know, that is not open or accepting, then that's something, again, that should have been brought up in the pods. There's a lot of shit that they don't be talking about in these pods, and then they come out and they're just like, oh, by the way, my dad is racist. Bitch, what? Well, bring that up earlier. But we'll see in episode 7 what happens when Kwame and Chelsea meet her dad. But for right now, these two, I'm just not seeing it for them. And I think that this is too much. Chelsea is all in. Kwame, he got one raggedy toenail out the door, okay? And then the last couple I want to talk about is Micah and Paul. So first of all, I don't know if Irina was just bringing out the worst in Micah, because I'm starting to like Micah a lot more. So Micah lets Paul know that Irina told her that she found Paul to be attractive, and that her and Paul had a conversation at the pool party. And so Micah, rightfully so, was pissed because she felt like Paul should have been the one to tell her that. And like, is something else going on behind her back? Because why did you not disclose this? You know, and Paul pretty much said, you know, I didn't tell you about it because I feel like there was nothing really to tell. Like, I'm not interested in her. I don't want her. I feel good with what we got going on. I apologize. I probably should have told you about it in hindsight, but I'm not interested. I'm not attracted to her. I don't have nothing to do with her. So that's why I didn't tell you. And so Micah just feels betrayed because Irina went behind her back, was all flirty and doing all this shit with her fiance. And she should feel betrayed because Irina was trifling for all of that. Micah reaches out to Irina, honey, because she got to get down to the bottom of some things because she's not okay with how everything, you know, transpired when they were in Mexico. So Irina and Micah go to dinner, I guess, or for drinks or whatever. And Micah is just like, look, bitch. Okay, she didn't say that, but she was just like, I need to know what's going on, because if you and I are going to be friends, am I going to be able to have you around my man, honey? Are you going to try to get with my man? And so Irina was like, no, it's just that I found Paul to be attractive, and I just kind of felt a connection. And Michael was like, hold up, because you had your chance to connect with Paul in the pods. You didn't, so there was no connection there. You just saw him, you thought he was attractive, and all of a sudden now you feel connected to him. I said, ooh. And so Irina was just like, yeah, you know, you really mean a lot to me. At no point in time did Irina ever apologize to Micah. Like, did y'all peep that? I had to run it back. I'm like, maybe I missed where she said she was sorry. But she didn't. Irina did not apologize to Micah, not one time. Irina was just like, well, I just want to reassure you that, you know, there's nothing between me and Paul. And Micah said, girl, I don't give a fuck about none of that, because he's not attracted to you, not at all. And Irina was like, ooh. Micah said, this is about me and you and our friendship. And if we are to move forward in a friendship, can I trust you? I said, oh, that's it, Micah. You should just know right there. Leave that hoe alone. She is not your friend. Then I loved how Micah kind of called out. She was like, well, none of the girls in the pods even checking for you. And I had to be the one to say, no, Irina's cool. That's my girl. I was the one that had the girls at least trying to be cool with you. Like, nobody wants to talk to you. And this is how you gonna treat me? And she was like, am I the idiot? Like, did I miss the red flags? Yes, yes. Yes, Micah. All of that, yes. So all of that you just said, yes, and more yes. You missed the red flags. You were too hyped up trying to be the mean girl with Irina. And you didn't realize that just because you find a frozen snake in the garden, you bring it in your house to nurse it back to health, and then that snake turn around and bite you. Baby, it was a snake the whole time. That's not mine. That's a parable from something. Then Irina at one point had the nerve to say, you know, things are done with her and Zach, but, you know, if she thinks about it and then she decides, you know, maybe I made a mistake, then I'll reach back out to him. Bitch, no. Like, what is wrong with you? No. Like, you act like Zack was all in and you broke his heart. No, it was a mutual understanding that the vibe was not there. So no, you don't get to just be like, oh, I changed my mind, Zack, here I come. Girl, you don't even got it like that. So no, that's not even an option for you. Bye, Irina. Called her Irina. Bye, Irina. Go on with yourself. And that's pretty much it for, you know, episode 6. The only other thing I wanted to mention was the scene with Zack and Paul trying to give each other love advice. Primarily, Zack giving Paul love advice was wild to me. I'm like, sir, you really feel like you're in a position to give Paul love advice and how he needs to check in with Micah and be there for her and affirm her and all that? Boy, shut up. You just got back with Bliss and that barely even happened. So chill out. So far, you know, since the couples have gotten home, I still feel like Brett and Tiffany, hopefully they'll be okay. I know last time I said I don't think any of the couples are getting married. My tide has turned with Brett and Tiffany because now into this episode, there still is no indication that there's going to be any drama with them yet. They haven't met each other's families though yet, so that could be the thing that turns the tide. But as for right now, I'm changing my opinion. I feel like Brett and Tiffany will get married. I feel like Micah and Paul might get married as of this episode. Some things happen in some upcoming episodes that we're going to bring up. But as for right now with episode 6, I'm on the Micah and Paul train, surprisingly. Kwame and Chelsea are not getting married. I don't think they're getting married. I didn't think it before, and I still don't think they're getting married, honey. I'm not here for it. And Zack and Bliss are a wild card, so I don't even know. Like, as of right now, they're not engaged. They're just trying to rekindle things, so it's too soon to call it. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. And Jackie and Marshall, as of right now, looking at this episode, I'm on the fence with them. They may or may not get married. Jackie just needs to kind of work through some of the issues she has, and they could be okay, but I'm on the fence with them. So those are my thoughts on episode 6. So y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you thought about episode 6. Do you feel like Chelsea is more into Kwame than he is into her? Y'all let me know, because that's what I'm thinking about it. So y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get into episode 7. Now, again, we're going to go least entertaining, least drama to all the good stuff. So of course we starting with Brett and Tiffany. But again, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing they ain't got no drama yet. There was, again, this episode, there wasn't a whole lot happening with them. But the thing that stood out to me in this episode with Brett and Tiffany was how, like, committed to this Brett is. Tiffany is too. But I think this is the first time we've had a brother on the show that has been this into the process. I'm loving this because Brett and Tiffany went to his apartment and she really liked his apartment, but she was kind of calling out like, you got a lot of high-end taste. They went into his closet and she was just like, oh my God, you got a lot of stuff. Where's my stuff gonna go? Instead of Brett being, you know, like, well, we're gonna have to figure it out, or you have to, you know, get rid of some stuff. You know how people do. He was like, look, if you like the building, at first I thought he was gonna say he's gonna buy her the building. I was like, bitch, you balling? But no, Brett was just like, if you like the building, I can always get a larger apartment or 2 or 3 bedroom. I said, damn. In today's market? In today's economy? Oh, you got money. But aside from that, the fact that he was even like that accommodating and Tiffany was just like, okay. I said, oh no, this man really do love her. And I mean, he did tell Tiffany in front of her friends that he really did love her. But for him to say that to her, I was like, girl, you got you a good one. I really hope shit don't hit the fan with them because he is really all about her. And I feel like he is gonna treat her like a princess, and I want that for her. They really are on the same page about a lot of stuff. You know, when she was cooking dinner for them, they talked about expenses and how he would take care of like 75% of everything. He was like, I'm cool with, you know, if people want to do 50-50, he was like, that's fine. He said, but I can't see myself asking my wife like, hey, you said you was gonna pay 50% of this, where my 50% at? And I was like, okay, I'm here for it. So they really seem like they have the same values on a lot of things, especially when it comes to those really core foundational things that matter in a relationship. So I just really feel like this could be the next couple after Cam and Lauren and Amber and Arnett, that's his name. I feel like Brett and Tiffany are going to follow the trend of those two, because those are only two couples we still have that are together from Love is Blind, except for the ones from last season, child, the little Kardashian girl. But I'm here for it with Brett and Tiffany. Anyway, moving on. So Jackie and Marshall. So this episode, Jackie met Marshall's sister, his niece, and his brother-in-law. His little niece was so cute. The way she was eating that pizza, I said, girl, look, you my little mini me, because I would have been tearing that piece up too, girl. But up until it was time to meet his family, Jackie was super nervous, y'all. She was freaking out. She started to shut down, you know, and she just kind of talks about how her family didn't really support everything, and she just has a lot on her. And she's nervous because she wants to make a good impression on Marshall's family. And she, you know, just wants to be her best self when she meets them. And so she pulls it together, and I feel like they have a really good visit. His sister and his brother-in-law really liked her, and they were just like, I hope they're serious about this, because marriage is not a small thing, it's a big decision, and it's something that I hope they are taking seriously. Marshall said something that was kind of interesting to me in this episode. So Marshall said that in the pods, Jackie was the only one for him, which we already knew. But then he said, I felt like if it wasn't her, then I was going to go home.
Wait a damn minute. Wait a damn minute.
Now, hold on. Because ain't that the same thing Josh said about Jackie? And you was mad and ready to square up with him because you couldn't believe he said that, but you said the same thing? Sir, okay, pipe down, because you was on the same type of time Josh was on, and then you mad and you want to fight him for it. What if he had turned around and tried to square up with you? You would have got beat up. A mess. But you know, overall, you know, Jackie feels like Marshall is supportive of her, but she's just nervous because her family, especially her mom, is just not okay with this whole situation. But, you know, she feels like she's making decisions for herself, and she really wants her family to get on board because it's her life, and she's going to do what makes her happy. So we'll see what happens in the next episode, honey. You know, so far, Jackie and Marshall, I'm still on the fence with them. I'm still neutral, but they good for right now. Let's move on to Micah and Paul. So in this episode, Micah meets Paul's mom. Y'all, when Paul's mom came on the scene, I said, this lady looks like an older version of Micah, which is kind of weird. His mom was really sweet, and she saw Micah and was just, oh my God, she was so excited, which I wasn't surprised. I'm like, because she looked just like you, so it's kind of weird, but I was like, she's gonna love Micah. And so they were getting along really well. His mom discloses that once he told her and his family Micah's name, they went on the internet and Googled her and found out all kinds of shit. And Micah's just laughing, and I'm just cringing. And Paul is like, oh, you found all that out just by her name? And she's like, yep. And Micah was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, don't admit that. Keep it to yourself. I feel like we all Google people on some level, but I don't tell them I do it. So that was kind of weird to me. But Paul's mom really likes Micah. Like, I like that they did get along. I think it's just kind of weird that he subconsciously picked a woman that looked just like his mama. It's so weird. And so another thing that came out this episode with Micah and Paul is that Micah is not really bi-coastal, but she lives in two different cities. So she lives in Seattle, and then she also travels back and forth to, I don't know if they said where in Arizona, but into the state of Arizona. She was talking to Paul about it, and she's like, ideally, once all the dust is settled and we're married, I feel like we could either just live in Arizona, or, you know, you could kind of do the traveling back and forth kind of like I do. And Paul was like, yeah, no. And so Micah was taken aback that he had the audacity to say no to her. And he was like, no, I'm just kidding, but also no. And so that might be an issue for them, because if she wants to kind of hop back and forth between state to state, and if Paul ain't okay with that, then, you know, what does that mean for them living together and being married and all the things? But also I feel like, girl, if you knew you was living in Arizona and you probably preferred that, why come on this show? It's another person, we're gonna get to them in a little bit, that did the same stupid thing. Why come on the show? Like, or I don't know, y'all, hear me out. This might be controversial, and y'all don't come for me in the comments, but why not, I don't know, bring this up in the pods. Talk about this in the pods. Hey, I live in Seattle, but also I go back and forth between Arizona and Washington. Talk about it in the pods. Why do y'all keep leaving this critical shit out when y'all having these long, in-depth ass conversations? Y'all had conversations enough to say y'all love each other, but not enough to tell somebody you live in a whole nother state half of the year? Child. So that's going to be an issue for Micah and Paul. So we'll see how they resolve that. But for now, other than that, you know, these two are still, you know, going really strong. And I'm here for it. So next, let's talk about Kwame and Chelsea. So y'all, episode 6 ended with a cliffhanger with Chelsea super nervous about Kwame meeting her dad. And so this episode opens with Chelsea going to the door. And I'm nervous too. I'm like, the way she acting, bitch, is your dad like Mitt Romney? Like, does he hate black people? Like, what's going on? And so she opens the door and I'm like, girl, not Mr. Rogers being your daddy. Child, you did all of this. You did all this preparing us for this man, and he was the sweetest thing ever. Chelsea's dad was super supportive. He just listened to them, and then when she said they were engaged, he congratulated them. He was excited. Chelsea, why did you do all that? Like, she really talked her dad up like he was just about to come in with a Klan robe on. And he came in looking like Bernie Sanders. Girl, grow up. So that meeting went well. She did all that tripping for nothing. Her dad was just like, you know, I hope you guys are making a good decision, but I support whatever you want to do. Girl. And so Kwame and Chelsea go to Kwame's apartment. Y'all. Y'all. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the way that I was raised. But let's really kind of break this down, y'all. So when these singles know that they are going on the show, I would imagine it's disclosed that they're going to be in the pods for probably at least 2 weeks. I feel like that, because I think that's how long the experimental part is in the pods. I think it's 2 weeks. You mean to tell me Kwame, first of all, who lives in Portland, we're going to get to that in a minute, y'all. I should have did them last Sunday because I got things to say. You mean to tell me Kwame didn't clean his damn apartment before he went on this show? Because, y'all, that was blowing my mind. The way I was raised, you clean your house before you are leaving for an extended amount of time. My mama did not play that. Before we went out of town, before we went on vacations, whatever, our house had to be spotless. And then when you come home, you're not coming home to a mess in a funky house. And Kwame had clothes everywhere. It was a mess. That bothered my soul. Let me know in the comments below if that bothered you, because I was taken aback, honey. But anyway, so they're walking around his little messy ass apartment, and Chelsea be just too understanding about shit with Kwame. I don't understand it. Now, when Kwame and her were at their apartment, she was talking about how the house got to be clean, can't leave no dishes in the sink, like she likes stuff to be really put together. And then she see his shithole apartment. And she's like, Well, you know, it's a mess, but you know, the other day when he did laundry, you know, he sorted my underwear, he organized my underwear drawer, he matched all my socks together, you know, he put the blacks and the whites and the whites with the whites. Girl. Quit it, Chelsea. We know you like him. We know he dicked you down good. Great. But can you take the damn blinders off? Just for a second. Just brief second. Take the shit off. Because you are way too impressed by the smallest shit when it comes to Kwame. And I need you to up your expectations and your standards and your requirements from this man. Because he's giving you bare minimum and you're taking it happily. And I need you to stop it. Chill. So Kwame and Chelsea talk about him living in Portland, which is like 2.5, 3 hours away from Seattle. And Kwame is just like his house, his apartment is his peace. And he has a life in Portland. He plays soccer multiple times throughout the week. He has a team. He has a running trail. He has all of these things. And he just can't fathom like just up and just leaving all of that. And so Chelsea is like, you know, well, your home is supposed to be peace, and that's, you know, what we're going to be creating in our home together. Girl, are you missing the signs? This man's whole demeanor changed at the thought of leaving Portland. Again, sir, why the hell you come on the show? You know you live 2.5, 3 hours away from Love is Blind. When they put out these casting emails or whatever, they make it clear about where the show is going to be taking place. It said Seattle. You don't live in Seattle. So did you just think in your mind that you would just so happen to find a girl that also too lived in Portland, even though the show was filmed in Seattle? Kwame, I can't. He just was really annoying me this episode. And then come to find out his mama she's not here for none of this. His mom is mad that he went on the show in the first place. He hasn't told her yet that he found somebody, he's engaged, and so he's wanting to have that conversation. And so Chelsea, doing the most, girl, relax. It's like, would you want me to talk to her? And Kwame was like, you want to talk to my mama? And the way it's to the untrained eye, it looked like he was excited about it. But no, he was more incredulous. He was more like, you want to talk to my mama. You have never even met her and you want to talk to her on the phone? That's how he was kind of looking when he said that. And he was like, no, I think this conversation needs to be had by me. Which I agree. His mama ain't even met you yet, Chelsea. What are you talking about? You want to talk to his mama? I don't know. First of all, not only is Kwame black, but he's African. I think he's, it's a Ghanaian. Y'all be saying it wrong. I think it's Ghanaian, from Ghana. To my knowledge, African mamas don't play that. And so some random woman just calling her phone to talk to her about now being engaged to her son during a process that she didn't agree with in the first place ain't gonna go how you think it's gonna go. It ain't gonna go the way you think it's gonna go with black American mamas. So I can only imagine a mama from Ghana. Chelsea, sit down, please. You're doing too much. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you're doing too much. So Kwame mama is so not into this process that she didn't even sign the waiver to have her likeness or voice put on the show. So it looked like Kwame is just talking to nobody on the phone. But either way, he gets off the phone and his mama is like, not having it. She's not happy. She thinks he made a wrong choice. And he's like, well, I just tell her, you know, it's my life and I can make the decisions that I need to and I feel good about this, blah, blah, blah. Boy, Kwame, I just don't even know. Like, after this episode, I'm even more sure that they are not going to get married. Like, after this conversation he had with his mama, after his reaction and his thoughts about moving out of Portland to Seattle, just all of these things, I feel like this is too much too soon for Kwame. I feel like he was not prepared for this level of commitment. And Chelsea is starting to peep that, but she still got blinders on. And I need her to take them off because you're about to play yourself, girl. And I don't want you to do that because you seem sweet, okay? But last but not least, let's talk about Zack and Bliss. So Zack and Bliss are still, you know, trying to reconnect. And Zack had Bliss over to his place for dinner. The steaks, he was trying to do sous vide, and it didn't quite go well. He didn't have the right bag, sonny. You can't do sous vide in a Ziploc bag. You got to get a sous vide bag, okay? But he was trying to do it. Water got in the bag, ruined the steaks, and so they just had like some caramelized carrots for dinner. Child, please. DoorDash, okay? What? But while they were having dinner, you know, Bliss still continued to talk about how he broke her heart and how she's just still trying to get adjusted to everything because everything is moving so fast for her. And Zack said the most sincere, heartfelt, sweetest sorry apology I have heard on TV. Like, it was genuine. Like, he really looked at her, was just like, I'm sorry. And I felt that. I almost cried. I said, he really means that. Like, Zack sincerely apologized to her, and you could tell he really feels bad, especially now that he's got to spend time out the pods with Bliss, and he can see why he should have proposed to her to begin with. So after Zack gives that super heartfelt apology, Bliss, you know, says, I know you're sorry, but, I'm still hurt about it, and I'm still gonna give you shit for it, but I'll get past it. Which I appreciated her honesty in that. Bliss is just like, even though he broke my heart and he proposed to another girl, you can't really deny your feelings. And, and people ask, is this real? And can you really fall in love with somebody without seeing them? And she's like, absolutely. And so her and Zack have like a really sweet moment where they start to dance and stuff. And it's just like, Bliss really brought out a good side of Zack. And I'm so happy that they gave him the opportunity to pick the person that he was going to propose to in the first place. Like, when did this become a thing? Like, when did that become allowed? They were like, isn't that the point of the experiment? Like, people are just able just to be like, this ain't gonna work, but let me reach out to my second runner-up. Like, that's crazy to me. It's like, okay, we're just changing the rules now, but I mean, it's cute, I guess, whatever. So then Zack and Bliss have this really cute, like a little date planned on a boat. He goes to pull something out of his jacket. He pulls a ring out and he asks her to marry him. And then, so that's our cliffhanger for the end of this episode. So we don't know what her answer was, but Zack did propose to Bliss. We'll see what happens next episode, but so far I'm liking Bliss and Zack as a couple for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys, what you thought about episode 7. And as always, y'all, like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel. So thank y'all so much for y'all support, and I'm gonna see y'all next time.
I talk my shit and keep it honest, keep it independent. I hear them hating, but that's only cause they inconsistent. He said the weapon wouldn't prosper, now they wouldn't form.